Hey, how are you? This is Laura Galdo, and at first, honestly, I didn't know how to even start this. I'm supposed to do an intro of episode 00 for my video podcast launching this month, and and I'm like, okay, how am I going to start? What am I going to say? It's funny because as a journalist and as a communicator and educator, it's easy for me to speak, but all of a sudden I find myself in front of a screen with Zoom, and it's okay, I have to introduce episode 00. What am I going to do? So I was talking to my video podcasting mentor, Sandi Viteri from Video Podcasting Academy, and I'm like, what about if you interview me? Would you like to interview me? Like, I'm tired of, I've already been interviewing people. What about if you interview me? And she so kindly said yes. So that's what's coming up right now. This is episode 00 before the rest of the series, which is coming up. So I don't know how this works. This is episode 00, so I know when I'm interviewing someone, but I don't know, Sandy, so why are we here?
Well, this is episode 00, which means this is the very first episode for my dear friend Laura, and she's launching her video podcast, which means we're going to be talking about what this video podcast is all about. So I am actually interviewing you instead of you interviewing me.
Oh, you were interviewing me?
Yes.
Oh, she's interviewing me. Oh, my God, how does that work? Because I don't know how that's going to come out.
So that is where we're here today.
Okay.
So my dear friend, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm really excited about the whole thing. I feel like a child.
Yeah.
I feel like a child playing with what I love,
yeah.
Playing with what I like to do. And I feel that as I'm doing it, I'm getting somewhere.
Yeah, okay. So why don't you tell us first a little bit about you? Who's Laura? And where did you come from?
Well, for years, you would ask me that question in an interview, and I would freeze. Who's Laura? Yeah, tell me, what are you going to do 5 years from now? And just nothing would come out. And as a communicator, speaking of other things, I was always like, very prolific in the world of speaking out.
Yeah.
That was, after I got away from being shy.
Uh-huh.
And but speaking about myself, it's really hard. So you're gonna have to help me here and push me a little bit.
Don't worry, as we get a little bit comfortable, because we already shared the oils,
yes.
and experience. We'll get comfortable.
Yeah.
So now we're getting used to talking about ourselves, because you have your own video podcast. So
yes.
Why don't you go ahead and do tell us about it?
The idea of producing a podcast in general started a couple of years ago. That's the journey. That's when it started. It started when I was doing radio for British Broadcasting Corporation of the BBC of London, and I fell in love with radio. As a journalist, I was used to writing for magazines or working as a reporter for the local newspaper. But when I started working for radio as a radio producer, my whole world of journalism changed. And then moving forward, because that's too many years, moving forward, then I run into podcasting, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened to, what happens if instead of me, because my dream was always somehow to go back to radio, but then I got into education, teaching at higher education, university level, whatever, and then media specialist for a local college here, and a public information officer, and all those things got on the way, babies, family, husband, all those things got on the way. And so my dream of radio, being a radio presenter, producer, host, or whatever, just like kind of stay there. Like a lot of people have dreams and they just think about it and they realize that right now is not the time, it's not the moment, therefore it's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But with podcasting, I realized, like, what about if I just start like doing this? And it all started when I was teaching a class on leadership for my master program, for my students in the master program.
And how long ago was that?
And this was about 3-4 years ago when I started recording the lessons because they had questions. And I was traveling, and it was a hybrid program. So I had to send them the lessons And then I said, instead of sending them boring, lectures, written lectures, what about if I send them the material, but also support it with me explaining it in audio?
You thought about, that was my question. Did you think about sending it via audio or via audio and video at the time?
Not video yet. Video was with you. Video was Sandy.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
That's the video thing came with Sandy.
Okay.
And so then that's how everything started. I'm like, oh, this feels really good. Like I feel like I'm in a class, in front of a class, talking to them. And so they liked it and they asked for more. So my lectures were a mixture of, on site, talking to them, projects, whatever, thesis, whatever. And also on the weekends, podcasting, what we call podcasting now, but it's actually just audio. So, okay, what we covered this week was this. What did we learn about this? And then I also started incorporating coaching ideas into that.
Okay.
Like life coaching, because I had a lot of students, like older students, with situations and problems, and a lot of international students missing home, having problems, situations, etc. So I started incorporating that, and the class had to do with creative teams and leading creative teams and being creative and opening your businesses and your design business and all that. So I'm like, okay, so I mixed all that together. And so moving forward to pandemic, okay, so
now we are on 2020.
So now
last year, you're in the
the
middle of the COVID-19.
not in the middle, just before.
Oh, right before.
Just right before
Okay.
I decided I have to do this. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to prepare my podcast. I'm also going to write my book. I'm also going to do this. I'm also going to do that.
Overachiever, type A, female. Sound familiar? For any women out there thinking about doing anything like it, that have the list of to-dos and things that they want to do,
Exactly.
here's a perfect example.
So a perfect example. And then so I said, yes, I'm going to get rid of something. I'm going to quit my job, not quit my job, but I'm going to start declining classes. And then so by just before the pandemic, I declined the last class that I was offered. And I said, no, I'm not going to go back to teaching anymore because I really have to focus on my thing.
Wow.
Again, focusing on deleting one thing and adding 10 more.
But at the same time, you were opening this space, right?
Exactly.
Opening the space so you could allow yourself to do something that you really wanted to do.
Now I know that.
But not then.
Not then. But back then I felt overwhelmed. I felt not capable. I felt, who do I think I am?
Oh, imposter syndrome.
Sounds
Sound familiar for anyone out there listening? You're not the only one,
I have
right?
to tell you this because it is true.
It is
and it's
true.
what I want to tell my daughters and my students and my clients. And it does happen because it happened to me.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that it was happening.
Right. Right.
Because usually when things happen to you, you don't realize that until you hit something, like my dad says, you're going to learn when you hit the wall.
Yeah, you get shaken and it's like, hey, it's happening to you, and you're like, what's going on? And then you realize this is happening to me.
And then so one of my biggest dreams was to finish my Camino de Santiago book, because I did a pilgrimage back in 2019 where I walked, I told you, the 800 kilometers throughout the north of Spain to reach Santiago de Compostela. So that pilgrimage for me was very significant. And the idea was to write a book about it. So I thought, okay, I can do the podcast, I can write the book, I can publish the book, no, it's impossible. You cannot do everything. And yes, although someone there said, yes, you can multitask, but no, you have to focus on one thing first.
You gotta focus.
Oh my God. So then I had to let go of that, baby for the moment. And I was tough. It took me, and then I realized that I had to do it because I wasn't getting inspired. The ideas, my writing wasn't just
flowing.
Not flowing. And it was just a message. Something was telling me, Laura, not now. You
see,
are
that
going to do
is
something
so
else.
important, because so many times we're going through life, right? And we get those messages, whether it's our body telling us to slow down, right? Whether we feel constant headaches or the stress, or we feel like we need to listen and pay attention to those messages, to those signs that are guiding us in which direction to go, whether we need to slow down, we need to stop, or we need to maybe pivot.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to pivot completely. We know that we're not going on the right direction, and it is okay. It is okay to take those changes.
And we are stubborn sometimes.
We are stubborn. That's for sure. Especially us female entrepreneurs.
So we are stubborn sometimes. Like I knew it in the bottom of my gut. I knew it in the bottom of my heart doing my yoga, my meditation, and everything. I'm also a certified yoga instructor. So I'm like, oh, I know. I'm a certified yoga instructor. I know how to handle meditation. I know how to think. I know how to whatever. I'm a believer. I have faith in God. Oh, of course, it doesn't matter. If you don't understand what you're going through at the moment and accept it, you can be Buddha. I mean, you can be, yeah.
So true.
Exactly.
So true.
And that's that's one of the things, going back to the podcast idea. Then I did the Marie Forleo big school, and that opened the door for me to organization.
Oh, wow.
And to modules, and to first do this, then do that, and do that. And then I met Sandi Viteri and her academy. And I'm like, I want to do it. And again, I was doubting. I was doubting all along. I was doubting when I did Marie's. I was doubting when I did your program. But I'm like, I got tired of doubting. I got tired of saying no to myself. I got tired
I
of
love
rejecting
that. I love what you're saying. I get tired of doubting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I get tired of rejecting myself. I mean, how powerful.
The possibilities for myself.
How powerful is that? I mean, for you to literally just imagine that you're driving a stick shift, because it has to be a stick shift. And then you pull the emergency brake and you say, you know what, enough with that. Enough with saying, Laura, no, you can't. Enough with saying, Laura, no, stop. Like, you gotta believe in yourself. The same way that you put that belief and you put all that into other people, and start putting that confidence on yourself. And I just admire that you just say enough with it.
Yeah, because instead of feeling better, I was feeling worse. The more I was doing, the worse I was feeling. I'm like, there's something wrong here. This formula here is not working. No. I have to fix this formula. And I love physics, and I love algebra, and I love those long equations and all those things.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know. So I always go back to physics and algebra to do my analogies. So I'm like, something here is in this equation is not working. I made a mistake somewhere in here. What is it? And then there was another process, the process of figuring it out.
Right.
The process of what is it that I'm doing wrong?
Right.
The more I am working, the more effort I'm putting into it, the more I'm thinking that I'm organizing my space. It's not happening. The more that I'm caring, the more that I am, the more. And then I realized maybe you need to do the less and less.
So what happened then?
So then I got into, and then I registered into video podcasting, and I saw the possibility of mixing my love for radio and broadcasting with video. And that's how I got into your program. And that's how I got into video podcasting. I'm like, this is amazing. This is really beautiful, because I knew of YouTube and I knew of podcasting. And, but what about if we mix it all, like Sandi says, and then just send the message out there, not only in audio, but also visually.
Yeah.
In video, like we're doing right now. You're seeing us right now. We are authentic. We are real.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got into it. And then forming the idea, or rebuilding, or reforming, or rethinking the idea of the message that I wanted to convey to the audience.
Yeah.
What do I want to tell people? And then again, the doubts. Who am I? Like you asked in the beginning.
Yeah.
Am I a woman? Am I a midlifer? Am I an empty nester?
Yeah.
Am I an immigrant? Am I a Cuban of Spanish background, or a Cuban period, or a race Cuban here? Or am I a journalist? I'm like, and then one day I'm like, well, you are everything.
You are everything. You are indeed.
You are everything. Everybody is everything in their own space.
Yeah.
Because that's what life is. It's everything that you have developed and grown to become throughout the years. It's who you are.
And exactly what you're saying. So all those steps, believe it or not, and whether we see it or not at the time as we're going through it, we don't realize it. But they're helping us to get to where we need to be. So there are lessons learned, right? And it probably felt like maybe really difficult at times. It felt maybe as mistakes, but there is no mistake in life. There are lessons learned, right? So as we're going through it, we're learning, we're adapting, we're reforming from the inside out, and then we're becoming the person. So who's Laura then today? Now, because it has been a transformation.
Yes, absolutely.
It hasn't just been the creation of a video podcast. It has developed a new person.
Exactly.
It's like a butterfly, right? This is ironic that we're here on the butterfly, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is that transformation that has happened to you?
Yeah, I am everything that I my higher self wanted me to be. Let's just go a little bit deeper into things that I believe, which is the source, the higher self. We are no one if we don't have that entity, which is actually really us on another level that teach us to reach those realms on this earth realm so that we can progress and evolve. So I realized that I am everything that I chose throughout my life. Beautiful. I am a little bit this, a little bit that, and a little bit this. And then so what I'm doing now is combining everything at this stage of my life. And yes, you do have to live a few years in order to come to this point. Some people are lucky enough perhaps to do it before. Some people will never get there. But as I'm speaking for myself, I feel that I still have a long way to go. Oh boy, a long way to go. But I feel confident that where I am right now is where I want to be. I don't want to stay here, but where I am right now is where I want to be. I am the writer, I am the journalist, I am the mother and the wife and the daughter and the podcaster, I'm the video podcaster and the person that wants this world to be a better world. And if I can contribute to that, that's it, I can die tomorrow.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Now, one part that we're missing here a little bit also of this transformation and also your purpose, right? Because I learned this as you were developing your why, right? Because we had to work through your why, we had to work through who's your target audience, and that takes a little bit of massaging. That takes a little bit of the process. I mean, it's not that you just go in and you say, oh, I have everything in here and it's so easy. People think that overnight you all of a sudden know exactly what the topic is going to be, what the audience. It takes work so you can ensure that the message that you're going to have is going to be delivered for the right people at the right time, and also that fulfills your purpose. So for us, it took, a little bit of work, but we got there. And it also is really tied to your why. And what I want to talk about now is about your background and what you have been through in life and how you got here. So you're originally from Cuba, and we are here in the United States, in Miami. And now you're a mother, but now you're an empty nester, right? And this is part of the reason why you decided to launch your video podcast. So I want you to share with us your experience as a mother, like you said, different stages in your life, you were different things. Depending on your age or where you were in your journey, you were a mom, dedicated full-time to be a mom, you were a journalist, you have your culture coming from Cuba and coming here to America. But you got to a point in time in your life where children sat out of the house and you're alone at home with your husband, and you realize, like, what do I do now with my life? Where are my aspirations? And that was what sparked also your why for this, to not only do what you wanted for yourself, which it was to spark that light, but also spark that light for others. So you said, I'm not going to be selfish. I'm not going to do it just for me. I want to inspire and motivate other people throughout this process, because if I can do it, they can do it too.
Yes.
So talk to us about that.
Yes, no, it was, to this date, it's still not easy to be an empty nester. To this date, I have to admit, I don't want to be crying or anything, but it's very sad. Every time I think that, I look around and my daughters are not here. And I've come to terms with that. Because that's another thing, another process. It's a process that you have to go through, and you have to realize that, of course, I always knew that children are not for you to keep, but for you to offer the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you do your best you can,
Right.
and so that when they are out there in the world, then they are a product of what you and your husband created, or you and your partner created, and moving forward. And so that you can say, okay, goodbye, I'm always here, but I have to move on. And that's where I got stuck, in the I have to move on. Because I had always worked in my career. I had always done both, working full time, being a mom full time, very little sleep and all that for many, many years. But I had someone to feed. I had someone to take to ballet. I had someone to care for, exactly. And all of a sudden they become independent, and being like my daughters are independent at a very early age, and getting a job and being professionals at a very early age. Both of them.
I wonder where they got that from. Huh?
No idea.
No couple didn't fall far from that tree. Okay.
No idea. But moving forward, so then it was hard for me. It was hard for me to put my life together for myself and my husband. It was hard for me to say, okay, so now let me just reprogram all my schedule and all my things again, and find those things that I've always wanted to do.
Find me again.
That's it.
Okay.
I had two things that bothered me for a few years. Two things. One was, Laura, where are you? And two, I have no peace.
Oh, wow.
For years after the girls left, I'm like, where is my peace? I could not find peace.
How long ago was this?
We're probably going to, the girls are now 24 and 25. So this was probably when they graduated from high school and went off to college, say it's, when they were 18. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about probably 6 years or so.
Yeah.
And so I started feeling like this thing in my chest, like I'm missing something. I'm like, okay, well, it's just the girls that aren't at home or not done with me anymore, and so I'm like, no. And then I said, no, it's a lack of peace. And then, so I would pray more. I would try to do my best in everything I did.
Yeah.
Be a good daughter, be a good wife, be a good professor, be a good this and that. But I kept asking the same question, Laura, where are you? That like I'm going crazy here, like talking to myself. Mm-hmm. That was those two things, no peace and no me.
And I wonder if there are other people out there that are having the same question. Yes. If you are, put it down in the comments below, because this is not uncommon.
Yeah.
This has happened. I haven't.
Wow, well, this concludes part 1 of my interview with my special guest in today's show, Life with Purpose. Check back for the conclusion to the interview with me and my guest coming up soon. Now, we would love to hear from you. Tell us on your comment below, was this advice helpful to you today? What area of your life do you think you will season with what you've learned here today? What actions will you take into practice right away to start seeing a difference in your life? Don't forget, if you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe to this channel and share so that Life with Purpose can also help your friends. And hit the like button below so we know to make more podcasts like this one. Help us spread the word so others can also have a life with purpose. Thank you again. This is Laura Galdo, your host.